say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make sure your mics are on.
Morgan Township meeting, July 10th, 2018 at 7 p.m. We will do a budget hearing first, and if I could get a roll call real quick first.
Mr. Updike?
Yes,
Mr. Butler is on vacation. Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
and I will now turn it over to Tony, the physical officer.
The what?
Fiscal officer?
Thank you.
Fiscal, yes.
All right, we're having a budget hearing because I need the budget for next year approved so I can turn it into the county auditor by the 20th of July. A question came up at the budget work session we had 2 weeks ago about which salaries were paid from which funds. So I've given you a list. The general fund pays the trustees, the fiscal officer, Rob, Mark, and Dale. The road and bridge fund pays Stevens' salary. The fire district fund, the levy fund, pays Chief Galloway. And the EMS special levy fund pays the firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics payroll. And the ambulance EMS fund, which comes from billing for emergency services, pays the minimum manning that we do when we're short, and we pay them an extra $6 to work the minimum manning. So that's where all the salaries and the payrolls come from, and that was a question that came up, and because I wasn't at my computer, I couldn't answer every question, so you have now where everybody is paid from,
Okay.
okay? So,
Is there any questions, anything from the audience, anyone else? If not, we will move forward and approve. All right, I will make a resolution for the tax budget, to adopt the tax budget and make the temporary appropriations of funds for expenditures for the fiscal year 2019, commencing January 1, 2019, pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 5705.14 and 5705.28 and 5705.29 and 5705.30 and
38. 5705.38.
I was getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of you.
You did.
Yes.
You did.
I'm sorry.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we'll now close the budget meeting, and we will move right into the Morgan Township regular scheduled meeting. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the Morgan Township Board of Trustees Insurance Work Session Meeting on June 26, 2018 as written.
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the Morgan Township Board of Trustees Budget Work Session Meeting, June 26, 2018, as written.
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Second.
Motion carried.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 26, 2018.
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And I will entertain a motion to approve the warrants.
The warrants for a period of 6/27/2018 through 7/10/2018, beginning with warrant 4892018 through warrant 5292018, voiding warrant 8604, approving warrant 8642, through warrant 8671 for a total of of $72,483.87.
Second.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Do we have anybody from the audience have anything this evening? If not, Mr. Marshall, zoning administrator.
Okay. Well, I received the first application concerning Okiana Marathon and Food Mart. It is on the footer and the necessary support work to be done for the extension over the canopy. I just received it in the email while I was away. I will be asking the zoning and BZA to help me review it and work with the approval. Okay. Speaking to Jeff Cole's email concerning Kathy Kirby on Alert New London. To refresh you, Miss Kirby has had a lot of flooding in her yard from upstream there on Alert New London with all the water problems. She is in the process of trying to, as I understand, excavate her ground such that she can help most of the runoff run down the particular channel she has now, but and everything else. And
So basically clean the ditch out.
Right, clean the ditch out, work on it, and everything. And Mr. Kolb asked me if there were any zoning regulations around that. We do not have any zoning regulations around how the water flows for everything else. My recommendation is that she get in contact with Butler County Soil and Water. They would have
Yeah.
the regulations.
A little background on this, Dale and I went down to see her probably 2 or 3 months ago during the spring. And I guess she reached out to you, called you, and then she had also called me. And she was wondering what she could do with allowing more water flow through her yard, so she doesn't get the rise and potentially come into her house. So what we looked at, we said the only opportunity, the only solution that we could see was opening the ditch in front of her house a little bit further to make sure some more water flowed through. So she's finally got a contractor who might be able to help her, and because I didn't want to see anybody get sideways down there with her moving any kind of dirt in her front yard, thought it'd be a great thing for Dale just to take a look at to make sure on the zoning side, we don't impact anybody else downstream, which I don't think we will. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about with what we saw. When we were down there, it looked like it flowed, almost the whole flow was in her yard back to the creek that was down there.
Well, she
near
had,
Daniel's shop.
she had pretty well channeled the water from her first few excavations of that particular area that we were looking at, channeled it so that it did flow down to the creek where it flows into the creek that's behind the house.
And I think what's her lot, about
Her
100
front-
foot?
Yeah, there's at
If
least
that.
100 foot, maybe, well, it sets fairly far back off the road maybe. But she was more concerned with the front of her yard, which was then washing over to the neighbor. If you
Yeah, that's
recall.
been an ongoing
An
issue
issue
for the
with-
last 5 years,
Yeah,
6 years,
yeah,
and
so-
we've been telling her,
Yeah, the
you
neighbor's house
gotta clean
was-
that out, but no,
Right.
and the other neighbors too. We told them all,
Right.
you gotta,
Clean all of that out. We can't,
because
there's
the
no
dirt
regulations.
level is
for it.
actually higher than their pipes,
Right.
and their pipes are all too small.
Yeah, see, I don't think you could touch the front part of her yard, because that would be channeling that water right into her neighbors, and there's some bad blood between
Oh, yeah,
between
with the
some
new neighbor,
folks
yeah.
down there, so.
Well, the existing ditch, if you just cleaned that out, we've been trying to get all of them down there. They've complained
Even
about
the
it.
ones above, even
Even the
neighbors
ones above her and then
need to
even
clean
across
out.
the street,
If they would all clean out their ditches.
they
then-
have small pipes, and the pipes sit like here, or pipes are about depth of here, and the ground level's here.
Yeah, I don't think, did you see a pipe down there? I know there's a pipe going on through her.
Some of them
her
have 2 of
driveway,
them.
There's a
her
pipe,
driveway.
there's a pipe right on the other side of her lot there that really, really needs to be cleaned out, and that's the neighbor's. And if you go down there in the heavy rain, you'll see that the neighbor's yard to the, well, is that north or south or east or west?
That would be west
Is
of
it
her.
West of her.
It turns into a lake, their front
Turns
yards.
into a lake in the front yard, which then washes over into her front yard. So it's a combination of all the neighbors, really. But she could help by maybe getting most of that water to go through her drainage ditch that she has in front of her house. And as we recommended, that she have the excavator push that dirt up a little bit and make her a more higher front yard, so that it doesn't get to her front door.
Yeah, I would make it higher on the house side, not the other side.
That's what we would do, yeah.
But yes.
Okay, all right, so that's that. Last week, Jack Grove called me in regards to a book he was using concerning zoning in Ohio. I have it, I actually had a 2009 version of it, but he brought me that one and gave it to us for me to look and become zoning knowledgeable, I guess. Good Lord, it's a thick book, too. During the conversation, I asked him what a reasonable time was. And he stated that it is time allowed for compliance to a court decision. A year isn't a reasonable amount of time. I also had emailed Roger Gates, and his responses in your packet, okay? And everything. And Mr. Gates's response was simply this: I think the township has waited long enough. Okay, that's the email, your number 3 there.
Okay.
Okay. In your packet, also, number 4 is a summary, a filings of revenue summary, which, by the way, Connie, I finally balanced. It was on this sheet, not yours or my other sheets that I had it on. Just for the for the first 6 months of the year, and everything. There are copies of this over on the table if you'd like to see it. For a total revenue intake of $3,872.50 through the first 6 months. The first 3 days of July, I brought in close to $500,
Yeah.
so I'm well over the $4,000 mark now. Okay.
And the budget for 28, put my mic on, the budget for 2018 was for the zoning department to bring in $4,000. So he's made that in 6 months.
Well, I wasn't sitting, I didn't even know I had that goal, so it was like that. All right, number 5. I turned in the final version of Article 4 definitions to the Butler County Planning Commission this past Thursday, July the 5th, before I went to Lexington. The Planning Commission will give its approval at their August 14th meeting. As that is a trustee meeting day, I will read into record the zoning resolution recommending the trustees begin their process of approving it at that time and hand it over to you, at which time you will need to schedule a public hearing for that particular thing. All right? For that particular thing. And I think what's been done in the past is a sort of like maybe 6:30 meeting, read the resolution, discuss it, have it public, and then close that meeting and then move into your trustees meeting if you want, okay? Because you have 30 days to do that. And then I have 15 days to get it recorded. It takes effect 30 days after that. Well, it takes place 30 days after you guys approve it, but I have 15 days to also get it recorded, which will be a small expense. It's like $20, I think, to record it.
Okay.
I have nothing else at this moment, unless you've got questions or thoughts for me.
I think next meeting, we probably need to go in executive over things from the prosecutor and that.
Yep.
I'd like to see all 3 of us here when we do that, though.
Like that, I would agree.
Only question I have is, are we still, our relationship with Mr. Grove, is it still a billable relationship?
With Mr. Grove.
Yeah.
Yes, it is still, but he called me, okay? on this one. If he charges us, I'm gonna scream at him.
Well,
But,
we still have money in Jack Grove's account.
Couple $100.
Okay. So, well, my thought is, why don't we move that back into the general fund? Why would we want to keep that? We are not,
Just leave it there. If we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't. It goes right back the end of the year anyway.
Yeah, it'll go back at the end of the year when I close all the POs that still have money in them.
'Cause you
before
never
I close
know
the year.
when or if we'll need them, or if
I
we
mean,
do,
if,
then it's
you
there.
know, if we got to the point, you know, where we needed it, yes, I could do that, but, since it's only a couple of $300.
okay, but you're not gonna have much of a conversation for $300, so,
No.
but I mean, as long as we know there's no more money after
Right,
that
and
$300.
everybody does, I mean, everyone's aware of that, we've
Yeah.
talked about it, so.
Okay.
the rest of our dealings, especially with the, the matter with Mr. Gates, it will be Mr. Gates because he was the attorney of record
Right.
at that point.
All right, anything else? If not, Mr. Brown.
I'm sorry I don't have one in front of you here, but I did email you a copy of this, so all of you will have an email copy. But on my report here, received a quote from Accurate Construction on putting the 2 new doors in the community center for $4,690. And we've got several other quotes from other people. Some of them were less than desirable quotes. The only other desirable quote that I got was from Bushelman Supply, and that was for $6,500 to replace those 2 front doors of the community center. Right now, those doors are working properly. It's just, for some reason, in the spring of the year and the fall of the year, when
On the ground
when the
rises.
ground shifts or whatever is when we have problems with the doors, but right now they're working fine, so I don't know what you guys wanna do. I mean, I know you talked about putting some new locks on it. I don't know if you wanna do that and then later decide you need to put new doors on it, or,
If you're gonna do it, you wanna do it when you're putting the new door in.
so
Be the smartest thing.
I finally got that quote from Dwayne with Accurate Construction. Actually, through the chief got it for me, so,
Why don't you bring all the quotes to the next meeting and we'll,
well, I
Check it out
basically,
more.
I just bring you the 2 quotes that are worth bringing to the meeting.
Gotcha.
Bushelman Supply and Accurate Construction. The other ones they're not even close. They're not gonna do the job that we need done. Those are the only 2 that I feel that would do it and do it properly the way it needs to be done, because both of them are talking about doing it the exact same way, and the other people, they're just talking like a regular household door, and I don't think that that's what we want down there because of the use that it gets. We need a good commercial door, and both of these companies are giving us commercial doors, whether you go with Dwayne with Accurate or Bushelman with Bushelman Supply. So, I mean, you don't have to make a decision today, but I'm thinking that that's the 2 best that I would go with, unless somebody knows of a different one. But I mean, either one of those 2 companies is gonna do a very fine job, and it's gonna be a quality job, better than what the contractor that put them in, way better than what he did, so.
and when we put this in, we shouldn't have an issue with the rise and fall anymore, correct?
I would hope not.
I don't know, what's the what is he gonna do to address the rising and freezing and lowering?
I honestly don't know what you're gonna be able to do to prevent that, because unless you take out all the concrete and redo it, but I don't know that there is any guarantee to keep that from happening.
But the doors are fine, it's just that they stick when the ground
Right.
moves.
Exactly.
And you're saying our problem time is in the
It's
winter?
spring,
in the
spring and fall, when drastic changes in the temperature, and that's when the ground, mainly in the springtime, that's when a lot of it is, when the freeze is coming out, fall's coming out of the ground, and That seems to be the big problem, is right now, the doors are working fine. There's nothing hanging up, everything's locking like it's supposed to, there's no issues. So,
Well, maybe look at it in the spring again. There's no need to jump on it at this point. I don't see any urgency. Do you?
I'm not really seeing an urgency. I mean, I just, the lady that opens and closes the building is the one that's complaining to me about it not being able to get it closed, but I've been able to go down and get the door to lock, so. I mean, and I say
Is it
just
pull, tug, and beat, or just shut it?
kind of pull a little bit.
Okay,
Don't have to beat, don't have to tug, just a little pull.
all right.
But you can't just push it and expect it to lock. It's not gonna do that. So maybe a little bit of a lift.
Okay. Just being honest.
We're still working on cutting and rebasing on Chapel Lehigh, just doing it as I've had the manpower available and also with the heat. I mean, those 95-degree days with the high humidity, I wasn't gonna do asphalt work and kill everybody, so we found other things to do. It was still hot, but it wasn't as hot. I've had Steve working on the tar truck. He replaced a bunch of gaskets and the little air actuated solenoids. Well, actually, they're the solenoids that work the air actuator. He replaced all the gaskets on them and put a couple new ones on, and we believe we have it ready to go. We're gonna do some testing of it tomorrow, and then we're just waiting on the guys from Riley to get finished with their road culvert so we can start chip sealing. We're gonna do some test chip sealing down on the dead end of Howard Road. Try to do that to, get our flow rates and all that together before we actually get out on a actual through road. But even though it's still a road of ours, but we're gonna go down there and work on that first.
Are you having, I'm trying to remember, is it the tar distributor guy that's coming out to help you run that? Or
Mark and Steve seem to think that they've got it figured out by looking at the manual online, so we're gonna try that first. If that fails, then we'll call him and get him out here, so.
I think even if you start learning it yourself, I think it would be better to still have him come after you learn it. Cause there might be some tips or something that he knows that you don't know, cause, I mean, they've done it. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's just, you learn from other people's mistakes so that you don't make them. Learn from the old guys.
Of course, sometimes you learn just as well by making the mistakes yourself as listening to other people too, so. I hear you, I'm listening, so. On the Church Street project, talked with Mark Goodman and Carr Singh this morning. Asked them where we are. We're wanting to get going on this. We're wanting to get talking with the property owners to get it all done, but I don't want to go talk to property owners until they have a completed plan in place. They said all the plan is completed except for where they have to move the telephone poles. Cincinnati Bell has stated that they want to try to move all their lines off of the poles on the west side of Church Street onto the electric poles on the east side of Church Street. That way they will be completely out of the way of the project. Cincinnati Bell is waiting for Duke Energy to give them approval to do that. Then they're also waiting on their engineers to get all that together on when they can get that moved. That being said, if they can't move them over there, then they have to tell Butler County where they can move the poles so Butler County can put them in the drawings. Well, Butler County says they don't want to do anything until they know where this is going in case they got a change of plans. I asked Mark Goodman and Carr Singh, I said, because right now they're trying to do some of the project with a drainage easement, some of it with right-of-way acquisition. I said, why can't we just put it all in a roadway acquisition or right-of-way acquisition That way it's all road right of way. Can be used for all utilities. It's in place. If 10 years down the road, we want to widen that road or anything, it's all there, we can do it. Well, I guess we could do that. I said, well, why don't we do that? Because that will speed things along. That will make it, when Cincinnati Bell comes and says, well, we need to move to here, you've already got all the right-of-way purchased, ready to go. They just put everything on the back side of our right-of-way. So they was gonna run that past Greg Wilkins and see what he said, but they wanna wait till the latest Friday before they start jumping on Cincinnati Bell to see what they're gonna do. And I says, well, why wait for that if we just go ahead and change the plans to where it's all right-of-way acquisition instead of all the other part this, part that, and just make it all one to try to make it go faster. So they're gonna, again, talk to Greg Wilkins and see what he says about that, so.
Okay. Let us know what you hear.
And then the last thing is, we got the 2001 dump truck back with the new bed on it. Looks like it's all ready to go. We took the other 2 dump trucks and got the hitches welded on it, so we're ready for chip sealing, the way to hook up to the chip spreader Riley's. That should have been roughly about $950 to $1,000 a piece for those 2 trucks that have that hitch welded on it. And that's a pretty sturdy hitch. All it is just 2 big plates of steel on the side with a big 1-inch bar going across. That way that clamp can clamp down on it and pull the truck along. So, but it's stout enough that a wrecker can hook onto that to tow the truck if you need to. So that's all I have.
Anything for Rob?
Okay. No, thanks, Ron.
Okay, Mr. Galloway.
Okay, first in your packets on the left-hand side, the Township report. We had a presentation last meeting from Premier Energy, who currently supplies our propane. 2 days after that, Rob found out that High Tower Petroleum is no longer the state bid, so they lost the bid and the price. So we met with both High Tower and with Likens. We met with Premier again and with Likens. Premier is already supplying our propane, and they do a good service for us. And then what they discovered, which brought to Connie's attention as well as ours, that High Tower was charging us an additional tax on one of the fuels that we shouldn't have been charged. And vice versa, there's a federal tax credit out there that we weren't getting that Premier will now submit for us. So with that, we decided, since we already had them as an account already doing it, the price was basically the same as the state contract. We just went and did all of our fueling with Premier. And that was we had to make that decision because that was July 1st was the cutoff. We were not going to get fuel starting July 1st. So that was like a 11th hour meeting. We met with both of them, and we decided that our best deal was with Premier. So,
Just for a little background on that, when I came into office and Judy was helping me, she said you shouldn't be paying these taxes. And so I called Likens and Hightower and asked them, and they told me, yeah, you're paying, we've taken off all the ones we can take off, but the ones that are on there are the ones you're required to pay. So I figured they knew what they were talking about. But I did look into it when I first came into office, and that's what they told me. So apparently there was a way to get around it, but they didn't want to do the paperwork to do it.
So that's pretty much the administration report. I'll move to the right side of your packet to the fire report. First thing you'll have in your packet is the run reports for June of 17 through June of 18 comparison. So the front you'll see the January through June of 18, and we're at 207 runs, 11 down from last year. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So the first page will show non-EMS runs, fire and other related runs for the month, and you'll see a $21,000 fire loss. That was a trailer fire we had on Nicholas Lane, and 10 other runs for the month. Next page, you'll have EMS runs of 10 for the township, and plus 2 that we went into Ross. They were both refusals, no transport. Your next page is just your equivalent of the fire runs in 2007. Same time was 15, with no fire loss in that time frame. And then the last page will be the EMS runs, the same time in 17 of 15 runs. So I've been talking to the chiefs. I think Chief Griffith gave a little insight last meeting about why everybody is down on runs. Basically, Fairfield Township is down approximately 200 runs from last year. Monroe is down on runs. They didn't know their specific numbers, how much they were down. And then Oxford's been down 100 runs. They're kind of catching up a little bit, but they've been down as low as 100 runs from this time last year. Aetna and now some of the other insurance companies have now stopped paying for transports to the ER when it's a basic minor thing that could be either handled at home or going to an urgent care. So they're no longer paying, or they're paying basically $80 for the entire hospital cost, and the rest is coming out of the patient's pockets. Well, that's gotten around to, like, we're not going to get a free ride to the hospital anymore using it as a taxi cab. We're now going to have to actually stick it out, or go to our hospital ourselves, or we're going to have to go to an urgent care and pay out of our pocket. So that is what the chiefs and the EMS folks have seen has been a significant drop over the last 6 months in everybody's run counts, is because the insurance companies are actually now starting to look at some of these runs that are just ridiculous, a sore throat or a stubbed toe, they were now having to take patients into the hospital for. So luckily in Morgan, we do not have those type of runs as the demographics would in Hamilton or Middletown or some of the other ones, but it still has, the word has gotten out throughout the country that Aetna and a lot of these other bigger insurance companies are no longer paying that bill. So that's what we see in our significant run loss, and everybody else has as well. So, Joe. Some of them are 24 hours. You can still find some 24 hours out there, Joe. I want to say that the one at Maine and Brookwood there in West Hamilton's a 24-hour. I think it's got a sign up on it that says a 24-hour. There's a few out there that are 24.
Yeah, the one in Harrison.
Okay. Sure. Yep. No, the one, I forgot about the one in Harrison. That's a 24. Yeah. Yep. And the West Hamilton, I'm almost positive it is also a 24-hour. There's some out there, the ones in the Krogers and all are not, but some of those freestanding ones are. Yep. But again, if you got scalding burn with radiator, that's going to be determined to be an emergency. It's these folks that go for a sore throat or a toothache. I mean, you can listen to Hamilton and Middletown all day long on a radio, and they're getting paid to a toothache. Well, the insurance is just not going to pay that bill anymore. That's not deemed an emergency, and that's where these reduces and runs are coming from throughout the county and the United States. So next is so we've had four architects that have come to the station. Another one is coming Thursday to make 5. Been impressed with all of them so far, to the point of their time is now running out to July 20th to have their packets back to us to come in for an interview process. So what I'd like to do tonight is just kind of, and I know Tom's not here, but kind of lay out my thoughts, if the trustees are good with this, is to go ahead and interview the 5, because we really only have to do interview 3, but all of these firms have made a commitment to come out and spend a couple hours here with myself at the station. So to interview all 5, we can't obviously do that in a work session, because I did some research today, and advise that we spend between 45 and 90 minutes with each firm, having them explain their process and what they do. Is probably give them 45 minutes to an hour. So our next meeting is August 14th, but we have a Tuesday prior to that, August 7th. I don't know if the trustees want to have like a workshop with 3 of the firms then, and the other 2 firms the 14th before a regular meeting. I will be out of town on the 21st, and then the next meeting, the 28th, I would like to by then have a consensus from the trustees of the firm that you, the 3 of you and myself, recommend, so we can move forward with the next process of it, probably the first week in September. So again, I don't know what your August 7th, that first Tuesday looks like for a workshop, because we don't want to cram them all in on the 14th. We'd have to start a meeting at 3 in the afternoon. So I would just let you guys think about that and see what your schedules are for the 7th, and then coming in earlier for the 14th.
So if we started at 6 o'clock on the 7th, you do 6, 7, and 8,
Be done by 9.
done by 9.
And then the other 2,
We start at 5, you go 5, 6, 7, right into the meeting.
yep.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's no problem, and that's enough, that gives you enough time to make sure these guys can present and cover all the details and questions.
So they have to turn back to us a packet, which in the RFP they had to return back to us a packet of themselves and some of their overview, 4 packets, 1 for each of you and 1 for me. So you have a chance to read their overview of them already. I today finished up a 10-question list for each of you, the same 10 questions for each firm, plus if you want to have some additional ones, but it's 10 set questions for each one, so we don't ask each one a different question. I think 10 questions and them explain themselves should easily be an hour. I think that would easily give them an hour. Just talking to all 5 of them, or 4 of the 5, I think they're all going to be right about the same in their firm's willingness to do the project. I think the only thing that you'll come out of them is how large the firm is, how small it is, or the commitment to the township and their firm. And so far, the first 4 that I've interviewed, I would say 3 are very committed. The 4th one is committed as well, but I think the 3 of the 4 are just, they want the project. They really want to do work for the township. So that's why I think an hour and the 10 set questions should be enough for each one of the trustees. Yep. And you'll have enough to review, I think, prior to, with what they turn in as their portfolios and stuff like that to review.
Now, were all these design builds, or were we selecting our own construction after the architectural work is done?
So when we interview the 5 architect firms, we will then pick an architect firm to actually draw the plans, do the engineering work, everything like that, that then, once the blueprints are done and all, then that will go out for bid, for contractors to bid. And kind of the same process, we'll have to interview a minimum of 3, which I already know 2 that are interested and are going to bid, and one being Dwayne with Accurate Carpentry. To the point of we'll have to give them like a 4 weeks period, 4 to 5 weeks to review the plans that have been drawn now, and then come back and bid. So with that, September, you're looking probably October, November, and then we'll have to bring back Brenda from Dinsmore to then do the bond, to finish off the bond, and then so if we break ground by the end of the year, we'd be lucky, which takes us right into
We're doing it by spring.
takes us right into winter. So if we get all the things done and pick the architect firm, the next big thing is to have an official set of plans so we can get bids and the quotes from the builders. Yes.
Okay.
And that'll go back out as another RFP once we pick the architect, do all the plans and the permits and stuff. That'll go back out for them to bid, the same RFP that we'll put out for them. Yes.
All right.
So the 7th we could do, what'd you say, Brett, 6 to 9?
6, yeah.
Okay.
6, 7,
And
8.
then 5 to 7 on the 14th. Okay, excellent. Next, you have in your packet a copy, and Connie is going to kind of tag team with me with as well on the resolution for this. Chief Griffith every year submits to the state EMS board for a EMS grant. We were awarded one this year. The starting period is July 1st of 18 through January 31st of 19. This year we were awarded $4,005. We can use that for EMS equipment, training, things of that nature, new ANSI vests for out in the road, which we just purchased some already. So we have a gamut of stuff that we can use that for. And with that being said, Jeff is actually on vacation this week in the Smokies. That's why he's not here today. But I want to just make on record thanks to Chief Griffith for applying again this year and getting that. And any questions on that before Connie has to do a resolution to move that money into a fund? Nope. Okay, Connie.
Okay. On my fiscal officer report, the first item is the Priority 1 grant. If you will remember, we have to do a resolution to approve advancing that money from the general fund because this is a reimbursing grant. They don't just give us the money, we have to prove how we've spent it, and then they give it back to us after we've spent the money. So we need to advance the money from the general fund into Fund 2903, which is the Priority 1 grant. And then once all that grant money has been received, that money then will be advanced out from 2903 and back into the general fund, the same way we've done it the last 2 years. And Assistant Chief always has, I know it says January 31st, but he always has this done by the end of the year so that the money is back by the end of the year.
So moved as read.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And that's all I have unless you have questions for me.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Okay, we already did number 1. Number 2, it came up during our budget work session 2 weeks ago. The question was raised about investing money. We used to in Star, Ohio. I've spoken with Lenora, and she remembers when Charlotte did that and did the wire transfers. She doesn't remember when it stopped or why. She just knows that it did. So the chief and I have been looking into different possible options so we can invest some of the township money, but we still need to keep that money liquid. In other words, we need to be able to get to it within a 2-week period of time in case of an emergency. We can't tie it up for a whole year, which pretty much says we can't do a CD, which is what a lot of them are doing. So we're still working on that. I've talked to Lenora, I've talked to 3 other people at LC&B that in different departments. I'm looking into Star, Ohio, and then Jeff and I spoke to a gentleman yesterday that he knows that does investments, and he cautioned us. He said Star, Ohio, just so you know in case you haven't looked at it yet, is not FDIC insured. He said, yes, it's by the state treasurer's office, so your money should be secure, but it's not FDIC secured. With my banking background, I'm real nervous about doing anything that doesn't have the FDIC security behind it. So we're still working on that. I mean, it's just kind of a process. There's, there are only certain things public entities can do. So we're still trying to figure out. I'm also working on getting that $75,000 back that LC&B had us put into a savings account. If you remember when we went into direct deposit for the payroll, they wanted that there as a security because of the last audit that Joe had, because of all the problems there were with that audit. They weren't comfortable with just taking our word that we were going to have enough money to cover payroll. So I'm working on with Lisa Emmel to get that money back. It's a process also. So the questions for the trustees to think about is, do you have a target amount that you would like to see invested? And you don't have to answer that tonight. I just want you to be thinking about it for the next meeting, and hopefully the chief and I will maybe have a little more information by then, and we'll know, what we can or cannot do and still keep the money where we can get to it.
Guess it all depends on what you can do and what you can do with it.
Yeah. I mean, most of the people that I've, the literature and everything that I've looked at, most of them are recommending 100,000. but if we get this 75,000, we've already had 75,000 tied up for almost 2 years now. So it will be 2 years in October. So, you know, I think we could probably handle another 25 to tie up, but again, keeping the money liquid so that it's there in case we need to get to it. That's my biggest concern with doing this. And the rates that we're seeing, just so you know, I think everything's probably gonna be a return of around 2%. Okay, I knew
I
you were
know.
gonna do that. I looked when the chief and I were talking about this yesterday. Our checking account right now is receiving 0.03% interest, and our savings account is receiving 0.12% interest. So 2% would be quite a
I know,
hike.
wouldn't it?
I know, it's a
Terrible.
lot different from what we saw 20 years ago, trust me, I know.
Yesterday when we talked to Pete Brofin, who does all of the police and fire wealth management stuff for pretty much all of Ohio, he offered to come in and do a 7-minute presentation at the next meeting just to kind of give the trustees an idea of some other investments that are safe, still have availability of the cash in an emergency, but will probably pretty much do more than 2% or less. So what Connie and I decided is that we would go ahead and get all our intel from the banking parts first, and then probably invite him in here to have for the trustees the pros and cons of the banks and what they're doing versus the investment on the other side of it. So he's offered, and we probably will have him come in. He said it's about a 7-minute presentation that he'll bring in and explain it from the investment side, and Connie should have all the banking by then, by the next meeting. So
Didn't we schedule him for the 14th?
August 14th, yes. Yep,
Okay.
Yep, we did.
Because that gives us time, the next time, to go over,
Yep.
you know, what the bank and everything has.
Yep.
Okay. Butler County Health Department has given us some brochures about tick and mosquito bites and a supply of mosquito dunks. The brochures are on the table out in the hall, and the mosquito dunks are right there on the table on the side. So please take some with you. Brett and I were talking about this before the meeting. You can buy those at Lowe's if you want to pay $9.99 for them, or you can get them free here because they were supplied by the health department at no cost to us. And if we run out there, there's some more in the closet back there from last year, so we have a good supply. So please take some with you.
Seen them yesterday, I believe, or today. Like $9.98.
Yeah.
Just a little extra to that is, so the health department has planted 3 mosquito traps out back, kind of down in the wooded area behind the grass area in the tower. And they come and check it once a month. The gentleman tells me the day he's coming and that he's coming out to do it. I did hear on the news today that they found a West Nile virus mosquito in downtown Cincinnati at one of their recreation pools in a trap. So he gives me a report every time that he comes out and inspects them if there's been anything suspicious in any of the mosquitoes that are in that trap. So there is 3 here, and he put 2 more throughout the township. And at the moment, I'm drawing a blank where they are. But I think there's one somewhere out off of California and somewhere else in the township. So
Okay. We received the Bureau of Workers' Comp employer premium refund. The amount was $11,242.95. Andy Frank with CareWorks had estimated ours to be around 11,000, so he wasn't too far off. So that's been put back into the general fund. And if you'll remember from our discussions with Frank about our insurance, we had to join a Chamber of Commerce in order to qualify for our health insurance to meet the SOCA qualifications. I did some research, and Oxford was the least expensive in Butler County. It wasn't that much more than the one up by Columbus that Frank said we could join, but, you know, obviously we're not going to drive up there to go to meetings. So I went ahead and did the Oxford one, and I'll let you know whenever there's like a business after hours or something if you want to attend. Oxford is one of the more active ones as far as their business after hours, and it's a good place to network and meet people and, you know, see what's going on. So I did want to let you know about that. Just a reminder, if you haven't checked, please check your mailbox back there. I know we haven't received anything yet from Gary about the fair, but I think Monday night is the night that us and Riley are supposed to man the township trustee tent at the Butler County Fair. So just kind of giving you a heads up, so you may can pencil it into your schedule. Tom and I did it last year, so, you know, if you have the opportunity, and, you know, if not,
When is the fair? That's the last week?
it starts the
22nd through the 28th.
okay, that's, yeah, so Monday the 23rd, unless Gary changes the schedule on us.
Wasn't we like Tuesday last year? or
We were supposed to be, and then, remember, I sent
Yeah,
him an
meeting.
email and said, that's our meeting night, and his response was, well, why hasn't anybody said that? It's been this way for years, and I'm like, I can't answer that, I just started, so we switched it, and he put us on Monday night with Riley.
I don't think. Wait a minute. I don't know, because Daryl went to it a lot of times, so how could it be on our meeting night?
Maybe he just did a different night or something, I don't know.
It might have fell on an odd week, or
Yes,
The third, yeah.
could have fell on the third week rather than the fourth.
it might have, I mean, yeah, but the fair is always the last full
Last
week in
weekend,
July,
Yeah.
so
All right.
just kind of giving you a heads up about that, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Nothing tonight.
All right, the only thing I've got is I went and visited the house down there on Cincinnati Brookville we talked about the last meeting. And I went back actually tonight again, trying to hit the house next door, cause when I was at the house that had all the junk and everything, I talked to the son of the parents. In fact, he is there cleaning it up. It's cleaned up a lot already tonight. We spoke again tonight. He hauled, I think he said like 2 or 3 loads of scrap metal, working on getting the vehicle out, and a few other things. So I did take the Ohio Revised Code for the noxious weeds and the junk cars, and I give that to him. And then I left it at the other house tonight because I guess when I printed them out, I laid 2 different piles, and when I grabbed them to go, I only grabbed 1 pile. So I didn't have it the one night, so I didn't stop at the other house till tonight. But it also gave me the chance to see that they do have a junk car sitting right there beside their house as well. And then I believe there is some of the weeds that are noxious, so. And then I will have that conversation with them, and hopefully they'll just clean it up, and we won't have to go through the letter process, and we'll see how it works. So I'm gonna try to return back there to them again.
Good. Thanks for doing that.
And that's the only thing, and then I did get a call from, Linda, and I'm blank on her last name right now, Roberts. And I gotta get out there to cross the street where they've got a field with, the noxious weeds where they blow across the, thistles, Canadian thistles, or gets that, and I've done this, I think, every year for the last 4 or 5 years, and I go out there, I tell them, and then they mow it, so I'll go out and talk to them again. I just gotta get out there. I think that's all I've got.
Real quick,
Unless-
I got a text message from a Dick Ruby, lives on Indian Woods Lane off of Lehigh Road. At the intersection of Lehigh and Chapel Road, it had been brought up several years ago. We went out, did the county's setback requirements and
Are
stuff.
you talking about the pine trees?
Yes.
Are they in the area?
He is complaining you can't see because the trees have grown and now blocking views.
Are the trees in that area?
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is he wanted me to bring it to your attention. I did that. I told him I would contact the county engineer's office. I'm gonna get them out there personally this time, cause last time it was Daryl and I went out, we put marks in a road, ran a string from this mark to this mark, and they was outside the line. I'm certain that they're gonna be inside the line, so because our road intersects with the county road, that is county responsibility for the vision of that intersection. So I'm gonna get them out there and let them
Deal with it.
go to work on it, so.
Okay.
Because the trees are off of the road right away on both county and ours, even though county owns all the right of way, but you know, on our road, and but I'm gonna get them out there to care of that, so.
Okay.
So, just, like I said, I literally just got that message while I was sitting here, so I told him I'd bring it to your attention, so.
Anybody else got anything? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
So Jeff's down walking the Rocky Mountains as we speak.
Well, so usually when he goes down there, he posts every day the trail he's hiking. This year he's posting every restaurant he's eating at. I haven't, Penny and I were saying that today. We haven't seen him post a trail yet, but we've seen him post a restaurant every day. So I really don't know what he's doing
No,
down there.
age just makes you wiser, doesn't it?